And welcome to Your World. I'm Trace Gallagher. We are live in Malibu. This is lower Malibu. If you went down the Pacific Coast Highway here about a half a mile, that's Santa Monica. More importantly, right behind us in these mountains, that is where the Palisades fire is burning. That is Pacific Palisades. We're talking about 11,000 plus acres that have burned right now. The Associated Press now reporting that it is the most single destructive fire in the history of Los Angeles. You're talking about in this area some 60,000 people who have evacuated. You look over here, this was the Topanga Ranch Motel. It is now gone. On the other side of the Pacific Coast Highway is the ocean, and the homes on the other side, most of them up and down, are gone. And then you have the Eaton fire, which is in Pasadena, Altadena. It is also above 10,000 acres now. They've got at least hundreds of homes there, 1,000 homes in the Palisades destroyed, and other structures. And about 35 minutes ago, we took a drive up the road here and got deeper into Malibu to give you an idea of exactly how fast this fire is moving. Watch this. I want to give you an idea of how fast this fire was moving in the early hours. You see this hillside here, how it was burned all the way down. The winds were 70 plus miles per hour. This is the Pacific Coast Highway. Right now we are in southern Malibu, just north of Pacific Palisades, that was devastated. Let's just let these fire vehicles go across and we'll walk across the road. So the fire came down this hill and then it crossed over Pacific Coast Highway. You can see some of the power lines here. This pole was burned in half, and as you walk over here you can see the oceanfront homes here. This one is clearly still on fire. There's not a lot of water in this area, so as you go down the line there's not really a lot that fire crews can do to protect the rest of these homes. But if you come over here you can see the ocean and the oceanfront homes, multi-million-dollar oceanfront homes, and as far as the eye can see down here, it is home after home destroyed, burned to the ground. And this is Malibu, where the crux of the fire hasn't even gotten to yet.
We want to go for this soundbite because we were asking what Governor Newsom and President Biden have had to say about this afternoon. They made an opening statement briefly at this weather center, but here is part of the sound from Governor Newsom and then a family announcement from President Biden. Watch.
Hunters out here in the way. They got a notification yesterday that home was probably burning down. Today, there's still standing, I'm not sure. But the good news is, I'm a great grandfather as of today. Granddaughter. I'm a baby girl, a baby boy. So I remember this day for a lot of long.
Announcement of a great-grandchild, and also that Hunter Biden's house appears to have been spared. More to come. That is the story for today. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.
We have to go live to Capitol Hill.
In other words, we gave it to him
where
for
President
nothing.
Trump's
the most
speaking.
expensive structure ever built in the history of our country, relatively speaking. The most by far. We lost 38,000 people. They gave it to him for $1. And then they charge more for our ships. It's not going to happen. And China's running the Panama Canal. That's not going to happen either.
Mr. President, on California, Mr. President, during the pandemic, you often said that you didn't believe that you should bail out blue states that you believe were being mismanaged. Given your criticism of Governor Gavin Newsom, are you willing to work with him, and do you believe that federal aid should be provided to California for as long as it takes? Well,
it's very sad because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called a smelt. And for the sake of a smelt, they have no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants today in Los Angeles. It was a terrible thing. And we're going to get that done. It's going to finally be done. I got it done from the federal side, and he didn't want to sign it, but it's not going to happen again like that. There's no reason. Can you imagine? You have farmers that don't have any water in California. They have plenty of water. They don't have a drought. They send it out to the Pacific, and it's crazy. So what's happening in California is a true tragedy. I know those areas very well. I have many friends living in those houses. That is a true tragedy. Nobody ever thought. I mean, virtually Beverly Hills and areas around Beverly Hills are being decimated. The biggest homes, some of the most valuable homes in the world are just destroyed. I don't even know. You know, you talk about a tax base. If those people leave, you're going to lose half your tax base of California. This is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration. They don't have any water. They didn't have water in the fire hydrants. They don't have water. And yet they have, the water comes from, you know where? Up north. And it comes down at levels, they give millions and millions of barrels of gallons of water that they have, and they send it out into the Pacific. For the Pacific, it's like a drop, it's nothing. But for California, it would take care of the whole state. So what's happened is a tragedy, and the governor has not done a good job. With that being said, I got along well with him. When he was governor, we worked together very well, and we would work together. I guess it looks like we're going to be the one having to rebuild it. But what happened there, I don't think there's anything that I've ever seen quite like it. And the insurance companies are going to have a big problem, because you're talking about big, big dollars.
Mr. Cheney, Biden pardoned Liz Cheney. What's your message for President Biden? He said he
Oh,
might.
I thought it was ridiculous that he did that, but we have more important things to talk about. Liz Cheney was, she lost in the Republican Party, as you know, in her state, by the biggest margin in the history of a politician running for Congress. She lost by like 42 points. Nobody's ever lost like that. So I don't care about Liz Cheney. I care about these people.
Deportations. What does day one going to look like in the Trump administration?
Number one, we're closing the border. It's going to be closed very strongly. It's going to be closed. And we're going to have to take people out that are criminals. We have people from jails from all over the world and from mental institutions. And as you know, they're going to have to be removed. And it's one of the reasons I won the election in a landslide. The people of this country don't want murderers walking down their farms or their streets or their cities. As you know, we had thousands of people that murdered other people that were in jail that were released into our country. Many of those people murdered more than one person, many of them, about 42% supposedly. We want them out of our country, and we're going to get a country back again, and we're going to be really governed by common sense. These are the principles of common sense. We're not going to be governed by stupid people. We're going to common sense. We're going to be respected all over the world again very soon.
A Fox News alert: devastating and apocalyptic scenes in California. Multiple raging wildfires scorching Los Angeles for well over 24 hours now, ravaging everything in their path, fueled by ferocious wind gusts up to 90 miles per hour. The raging blazes are so far 0% contained. 2 people have been killed. Jonathan Hunt is in Pacific Palisades, California. He's been there all day, and we appreciate your work and your update. If you could tell us what you see right now.
Sure, Dana, and the bad news for everybody here is that the homes continue to burn, one after another after another. Take a look at this one behind me. This was not burning when we started talking to Martha McCallum just 2 hours ago, but flames flicked over from another house that was burning, and within 2 hours, this entire structure, which is a large home, as you can tell, on a large footprint of land here, almost completely gone. The concern now, as Brian looks up here, is the home next to it. You can see some flames just licking at the corner of that fence there. And this is the problem here. We're getting these gusts of wind still, 30, 40, 50, 60 miles an hour. And they pick up embers from one of these fires, take it over there, and then that next house gets ablaze. The firefighters were here just a moment ago. They may have tamped down some of the area around the side of that, but they've now left. And then as we look back down here, you can see the neighborhood ahead of me, almost completely destroyed. House after house after house. And another, as Brian pans left slightly, another huge fire going on right there. And as we look up at the sky, you can see the smoke that this here. The sun has been trying to break through. And as I just look back down here ahead of us now, this fire looks a particularly intense one as we look towards it now. We're limited in how far we can go, both for safety and technical reasons, but that is a fierce one burning now. One more home that is destroyed. And Brian, just turn back to me here, Brian. Right behind me now, we've got another one that is This is happening again and again. Dana, we are a long way from the end of what is already one of the worst wildfires in terms of destruction in California history. Dana?
Jonathan Hunt, please stay safe. Thank you so much. And as the Pacific Palisades wildfire becomes the most destructive in Los Angeles history, the city's mayor, she was out of the country while all of this was happening. Karen Bass is back in the United States now. She had gone to Africa to attend the inauguration of Ghana's president. Meanwhile, California Governor Gavin Newsom and President Biden are currently in the state getting briefed on the fast-spreading fires with officials. The president pledging he's prepared to do anything and everything as long as it takes to contain the fires. They took no questions, but Newsom was full of praise for Joe, and the president felt it was important to focus on this.
There's only one piece of good news. My son lives out here and his wife. They got a notification yesterday their home was probably burned to the ground. Today, it appears that it may be still standing. They're not sure. But the good news is I'm a great-grandfather as of today. My granddaughter.
Mr. President, thank you for being here, but not just being here today. Thank you for being here since the minute of this incident, when there was a 10-acre fire less than 24 or so hours ago. Deep gratitude.
All right, more on that in a moment. Kennedy, let's start with you. You were somebody I thought of first thing last night when I saw these were happening. I know that you spent a lot of your life there, and you have a home there, and you had a particular exchange with Jonathan Hunt today.
I did, and it just goes to show you what a family Fox is. So I was up all night with my daughters, incredibly worried about our home, our friend's home. Our best friends live there. I've talked to 4 of my best friends. They've all lost their homes within a block or 2 of where we live. You know, as Jonathan is showing you, it's a very fluid situation. I don't feel like any neighborhood is safe there right now. It's house by house. It's not even street by street. And Emily Campagno knew that I was very worried because I had a friend take some stuff out of the house, and there was so much that I left behind. And I left behind my grandfather's sword from World War I and some baby pictures that you see there. That's Nikki. That's Jonathan Hunt's producer.
Wow.
He was kind enough to drive by, and I asked him if he would go into the house and just grab a couple of things for me, and he was able to do that.
Wow.
And, you know, the 90 seconds that they had. And our house may not remain. It's still a very unstable situation. I hope and pray that it does. I pray for everyone there. But the fact that he was able to get those family heirlooms means so much to me.
I can imagine. That was definitely something over and beyond.
Yes.
And that's great. Harold Ford Jr., your observations on this continuing situation.
I have, like Kennedy, a few friends and family that are there, and a dear friend who's lost his home and his family's home. The stories are obviously only going to likely multiply. I hope and pray not only for all of the first responders and those who have loved ones there, and obviously those who are affected. I'm heartened by the fact that the casualty level seems to be low. Don't get me wrong, the 2 people who have lost their lives, their families, our hearts and prayers go out to them. But the homes and the schools and the physical structures that have been lost, the impact this is going to have is just untold. I think Matt was saying at the outset, it's incalculable at this point, or I should say the calculations are enormously high at this point. It's only going to get worse. I would imagine that some of the efforts to try to get water into these areas from various states or neighboring states is underway, and I'm hopeful and prayerful that the weather improves so that they can at least begin to do the aerial water drops in ways that can be more helpful. But this is just an awful, awful situation, and my prayers go out to everyone in that area.
Jesse Waters.
Yeah, we're all praying for everybody out there. We all know people, and hope everything turns out for you, Kennedy, and your friends. That video we just saw is so symbolic. You have one political leader who's out of the country. You have another political leader who makes it about himself. And you have the other political leader who's just not doing his job. They've contained 0% of this fire, and it didn't need to be this way. This man cannot manage water or forests. Did you know they've had record rainfall and he hasn't built a single reservoir? Hasn't broken ground in a single reservoir. It rains in California and it just washes into the ocean. He is bragging about tearing dams down. He tore more dams down than anybody in the history of this country because the Native Americans told him to do it because it would save some salmon. Now look at this. couple years ago, Donald Trump issued an order to send water from Northern California to Southern California, and Gavin Newsom sued Donald Trump to block it. Why? Because of smelt, Dana.
Yep.
It's the size of my pinky, this fish. It's supposedly an endangered species. No one really knows what it's there for. No one really cares. And you know what just happened? There's no water coming out of the fire hydrant because this man mismanages the water there. And then it turns out last month, you know what? Biden and Newsom decided, we don't need to protect the smelt after all.
Yep.
The whole thing was worthless. And then you get to these forests. He hasn't built any of these roads that are used to escape. You basically have Pacific Palisades, and you guys know this. You're in a cocoon surrounded by state parks, and you're blocked by the ocean. There's one way in and there's one way out. It's a death trap. He hasn't built a single escape road. So these people are just going to cook. And he doesn't do any controlled burns. This whole time, barely does any of it. Has cut money for forests. They spend more money on homeless than they have on fires. And both of them are out of control. And then there's Karen Bass. She was invited to an inauguration for an African president and she left. Why is an American politician going to some other politician in another country's inauguration? That doesn't make any sense to me. You can say no sometimes. This whole thing is a disaster. It's criminal what's happening right there. And you pay so many damn taxes in that state. They should be able to serve the public.
You know this area well. You spent some time there.
Yeah, I lived there for a year, but I'm mainly a Northern California guy. Every place has something weird. California is like dating a supermodel. Beautiful to look at, but whoa. But Jesse, you were right that it's 0% contained, but CNN points out it's mostly contained.
Mostly contained.
I'm glad Joe became a great grandfather. It's nice that he actually acknowledged the child. Good for him. I think it's actually worse than it looks. People are sending me videos of my buddies in LA and stuff, and it's insane. PCH, it looks like a Cormac McCarthy novel, you know? And I think, you know, if you have spare room or any space in your home, you might consider opening them up, because I agree with Harold. I think this is going to get worse. There's going to be a lot of people with nowhere to go. They're not going to be celebrities either that can go stay at the Beverly, you know, the Beverly Hilton.
Beverly Hills.
Beverly Hills. What do I know? I stay at the Red Roof Inn. But it's I think you're going to have a lot of displacement. This looks like it's going to be, I don't know, months, years, billions and billions of dollars. Will people rebuild? Will they even have insurance to rebuild? I mean, this is it's a pretty, and I hate commenting on how this happened while it's happening, so I won't.
But we're going to have time to do that in the coming days.
Yes.
I know that we want to tease, but I just want to ask Kennedy one thing, because Jonathan said something this morning on a newsroom that has been with me. There's a lot of people in California are wealthy, yes, but a lot of people that live in these areas are not, and they've lost their homes too.
Well, a lot of the people who moved to Pacific Palisades that, you know, my girls have grown up with, they moved there because there are public schools where their kids are safe. And so they moved to the Palisades into apartment complexes and condominium complexes, or, you know, they rent homes. A lot of people who live there inherited homes from grandparents, and they went to Palisades High School, and it's very family and community oriented. And not everyone there, the majority of the people that we knew, the parents in public school, they were hardworking families who were sacrificing everything to send their kids to schools when they couldn't afford private schools. And those are the kind of people that got dropped by companies like State Farm, who just dropped a ton of people in this area who, you know, thought they might get around to getting fire insurance. And now they've lost everything. I have a good friend who's a single mom, and she doesn't know if her home is standing. A neighbor across the street lost his home. He called her today and said, I don't think your home is still there. That's literally all she has. She's a photographer. She left her home with her cameras and some baby pictures, and that's all she's got now. So.
And all those schools in Palisades have burned down.
Yes, Village School, the high school.
This is one of the biggest natural disasters I certainly have been a part of in terms of the coverage, and we are praying for everybody. We'll have more to come as California battles these raging wildfires and disturbing reports that water is starting to run out.
He makes a good point when he talks about the winds up there. Jonathan is up on the hills above us, and when he talks about the winds up there, those winds come down here. We're still getting gusts of 60, 65 miles per hour. Overnight in this area, they were getting wind gusts up to 98 miles per hour, which is really what kind of pushed these flames across, and there was just no way to fight it. On that note, let's bring in the Sheriff of Los Angeles County, Robert Luna. Sheriff Luna, thank you so much for coming on with us. We appreciate it. It looks like Pacific Palisades is just devastated. The first question is, how does the Sheriff's Department, how do you protect the city of Palisades, the town of Palisades, while people are out of their homes?
It is absolutely our responsibility to be there for our community. To be there to evacuate, making sure people are safe and they're not seriously injured or killed. Two is to secure that location. Unfortunately, at times we have individuals that will take advantage of the unfortunate circumstances and go in and try and steal things. So we're making sure that we have adequate staffing, not only at the fire that you're at reporting from, but the other fires that are impacting our county. And I've got to say, I'm very proud of our employees. For the last 48 hours, they've been out there in the conditions that your viewers are seeing you in, and you're doing a heck of a job reporting the chaos. And it gets worse at night when you can't see. So very difficult conditions, but you know what? This is our community. I can report to you that I've talked to several of our employees today that have lost homes, both in that area and the other fire, the large fire we have going on in the county. So we're feeling this, even here at home.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Sheriff, because you talk about these couple of fires. There was a third fire, the Sylmar fire. It exploded to about 500 acres. That was kind of northeast of the Eaton fire in the Pasadena Altadena area. But it really is the focus now on the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire. And the Eaton fire, hundreds of homes there also destroyed. Are you worried about your resources? We know we are very lean on resources with firefighters in California. What about the Sheriff's Department? Are you also lean on resources, Sheriff?
Yeah, all of us have staffing challenges, but we got to step up to the plate. And under circumstances like this, we're calling people in. We have additional people that will be working. A lot of our normal responsibilities will stay on the shelf. I mean, we're still responding to calls for service throughout the county, but our priority, make no doubt about it, is working with our partners in Unified Command, both at the fire you're reporting from and the Eaton fire. And I've got to tell you, regarding the Eaton fire, I've heard miraculous stories this morning of our deputy sheriffs going out firsthand and saving lives. We did lose one black and white. Yeah. Thank God our deputy was okay. But we have multiple stories literally saving lives for the last 48 hours, both in the Palisades fire and then also the other fire in Altadena.
Yeah, I mean, it really does, Sheriff. As you're talking, we're getting these winds behind us. These are very powerful winds. These fires, still no containment on these things. Sheriff, are you hearing any word on how these fires might have started?
No, it would all be speculation. They're both under investigation, but I can assure you we're going to try and get to the source of what started this. And by the way, yeah, as you're talking Sheriff, about the high winds.
Go ahead, Sheriff.
I'm sorry. I would just, you were mentioning about the high winds. And for those folks out there that are not familiar, and I'm not a firefighter, but it's been made very clear by our chief, our fire chief, that they're having a difficult time. It's almost impossible to get aircraft up in the air. And that's a very effective mechanism for fighting these fires. And that is not doable in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, and really, even, Sheriff, if they could get these airplanes up in the air and some of these fire retardant planes, it would be kind of a shot in the dark because, as you know, when they dump the retardant with these winds so high, it's just unknown where the retardant would push to. So it's really kind of a fruitless effort. Do you see FEMA and others bringing more resources in here, Sheriff, to help? Have you and your office called out for more resources around the state? What's the process?
So for us in the county, I am responsible for mutual aid. I'm the mutual aid coordinator for this region here, Los Angeles County and the adjoining counties. I immediately was receiving calls from the Office of Emergency Services from the state offering any resources that they could. I know our fire department has been asking for them, and they're starting to receive those. From a law enforcement perspective, they're asking us. Right now, we are doing okay, but we understand this isn't going to be over tonight or tomorrow. So we're preparing for the worst, or planning for the worst, I should say, as we move on. But any resource that we're asking for, either through the state or the federal government, they're willing to give it to us, and we're extremely grateful for that level of collaboration and partnership.
Los Angeles County Sheriff Robert Luna. Sheriff, thank you for spending your time with us. We appreciate your analysis. We appreciate your comments.
Meanwhile, let's bring in Rick Caruso. Caruso, founder and executive chairman who ran against Karen Bass for mayor of L.A. 2 years ago. Thank you, sir, for joining us. You caught our attention this morning with your analysis of the situation, saying this looks more like a third world country.
Well, you know, first of all, thanks for having me on. It does look like a third world country. The devastation up in the Palisades area is so widespread. Most of the downtown is completely gone. One of my developments up there was damaged. It still is standing, which we're very grateful for, but we're not sure what's going to happen because there's still fires around it. But most of the downtown is gone. Whole sections of neighborhoods are gone, as I heard on your report, schools, churches. What's amazing to me is how widespread a devastation this could have happened in a relatively short period of time. One of the things you reported was the lack of water and fire hydrants. I think there's a lot of tough questions that need to be asked on how it happened. Was the city adequately prepared? Knew the high winds were coming in? And to your point, I think John raised, the brush clearance in this area has not happened for decades. So although it started in a neighborhood, it quickly moved into the brush in the hills that are controlled by the city, the county, and the state. And it provided an enormous amount of fuel and just took off. And we really need to hold leadership responsible. Ask what they did and find out what they did wrong and hold people accountable.
In the meantime, this is survival mode, Rick.
Oh, it absolutely is. And, you know, you're talking about $10 million homes and $30 million homes. Just to be clear, the majority of the businesses in the Palisades are independent small businesses. There is a far majority of homes in the Palisades that people have lived in for 30 or 40 years. It's not all wealthy people. And these are people that are going to be wiped out. There's businesses that are going to be wiped out. And this is what really saddens and angers me and frustrates me, is that the city has a sacred duty and obligation to protect people's lives and livelihood. And when you don't have water and a fire hydrant, you've got to ask some real tough questions on how the hell this could happen in a major city, the second largest city in the country.
We know we're about to hear from President Biden. He is with the governor right now. He's on site about to deliver remarks. My team can alert me when he begins. Here we go. We've got the video up. Rick, if you could stand by with us. Obviously, this is the leadership in the form of the governor, I should say, that you're criticizing. We'll see what he's been discussing with the president, what resources they're going to be able to deploy. I know, to your point, you're saying there are firemen on site in some cases that can't do anything because they don't have resources. They don't have the ability to fight these fires right now. It looks like he's got a map up. I believe we'll dip in here and listen to the president. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.